G'day everyone, welcome back to another edition of Guvs Hero Review videos. Today we are going to be taking a look at the February 2024 featured hero of the month, Jewell, who is a 5-star yellow Bling-Bling Sniper, apparently. So, Jewell was first brought into the game as the featured hero of the month back in September 2022. Obviously has come back as a returning or a refeatured hero of the month. Why Small Giant Games are doing this is really anyone's guess. Could be a holiday thing, it could be that they've got other content they're working on, it might just be a reprioritization of resources to focus on things like event heroes. Whatever the reason is, I am very much doubtful that we're ever going to get much information or clarity because SGG aren't really known for their stellar communication skills when it comes to their communities, but we'll just have to wait and see. It might even be that they've decided to go this route as a way of being friendly to, or providing a more friendly opportunity to get past Heroes of the Month. I don't know. Whatever it is, as I said, I doubt we're ever going to get an official explanation. But yeah, typically for old Heroes of the Month, Jewell would only be available for summons from the Manor of Legends portal, which wraps around once every 4 weeks. That portal, however, does have really horrendous odds to summon a specific hero. It's a little bit... It's poor when they're the featured hero, and it is absolutely hot garbage horrendousness when they're a non-featured hero. So unfortunately there is only a limited number of times that a hero is featured, so there's only 2 featured hero slots, and the portal keeps expanding every month on month. So the featured heroes, there is a finite number of times that they can be featured. Taking a look quickly at my roster, and we can take a look at her artwork. So this is Jewell's artwork. She's titled the Bling-Bling Sniper, and her skill's called Augmented Snipe, so I don't really know how those two things correlate with each other, but we can see she's got that 5-star bling going on. She's got what looks to be a hair comb as an earring, which is a little bit interesting, and she's got some fancy hollow sight thing going on with her rifle, which I can't see it being very useful because the center of the reticule is kind of on the center of the rifle, which doesn't really help with how she's holding. I don't know. It's weird, but with a nice little interesting detail, I don't know if you can see it, is on her glasses there, where it's sort of got a heads-up display going on there to help her with her aim and stuff. But anyway, that's her artwork. Feel free to pause it if you wish to look more. But in the meantime, let's head back over and keep looking at her card. So normally the next part I'd talk about is their family bonus, but being a hero of the month, Jewell doesn't actually have a bonus at the time of this review. Maybe they might add one down the track. I'm not going to guarantee anything, but at this point in time during this review, there is no family bonus. There's nothing at all. In terms of Jewell's personal stats, she comes in with 710 attack, 715 defense, and 1410 HP. So overall, that is pretty balanced. There's not really any skewing towards any one stat. The overall stat line is comparably low to new heroes. This is because, I mean, she's a 2022 hero, so there's been 2 additional years, or a year and a half, plus power creep, so she's sort of... That's why the stat numbers are a little bit less than what you're used to seeing on new heroes, and also why her power is less as well. Her charge speed is set to 56, which is average speed. This requires 10 tiles to charge or 5 ghosted tiles. To get a speed break down to 9 tiles, you do need to give her +2, which you can do using literally any of the speed guns in the game. So there's a 3-star option that gives +3, a 4-star option, the Triss Vector, which gives +7, and there's a 5-star option, which is the Ragnarok Vantage, and it gives +6. To get a double break, you do need to go +9, so you have to get up to 65 speed. Unfortunately, as I mentioned, the best speed gun is the Triss Vector, which gives +7. So even when you combine that +7 with Jewell's class node, it doesn't get you across the line. It's close, but it's just not quite there. So yeah, you do need a better speed gun. It is worth noting that the class node is sufficient to get that first break, so you don't need to equip a speed weapon if you've got the charge node, but yeah, whether you do that or not is up to you. The class node is somewhat irrelevant because there are a huge amount of speed guns available, like the 4 and the 3-star options are widely available, but you might want to put a different weapon on her, such as like a crit or an accuracy gun or something like that. So yeah. Class-wise, on that note, Jewell is a member of the Sharpshooter class, which grants her the chance to bypass all defensive buffs, including counterattack on the target enemy. It is a pretty useful talent because it does negate the buffs, which may ultimately affect the damage output from Jewell, which is particularly good on a sniping hero because snipers only have limited range of effect. So yeah, the Sharpshooter talent does work quite well for heroes that primarily target one enemy. I wouldn't really go relying on it to target counterattack heroes because you're still most likely going to get the return damage, but there is a chance that you can pierce through it or bypass it, essentially. In terms of an actual emblem path, I have not leveled my Jewell, as you would have seen, but if you do go an emblem path, I'm just going to demonstrate on ACO variant here, I would probably be recommending going an attack route. So what this looks like is we're going attack and attack here. There is the choice to pick up that speed node there. So on this point, you could realistically go either direction. They're both entirely viable. Then underneath that, you can't really see it, but there is an attack node. I might just switch to a different hero because that's quite annoying. Alright, Soraya, you're it. You're yellow and you're a sharpshooter. So let's just redo that. So we'll go attack node. Here at this node, you could go for either option. You could go for the speed node or the attack path. In either case, you are still going to keep following attack for the rest of the tree, and you'd probably stop it at plus 18. There's not really any value in Jewell getting the 19 or the 20th node. In fact, you can probably cut it off here at plus 17 if you so chose. So whichever way you go there, you can pick either direction, but I'd most likely stop at plus 15. The rest of the nodes, I mean, the ultimate point is I would stop at plus 18. 19 and 20 have no real value for Jewell at all. So that's what I'd do for an emblem path, if you can interpret that squiggly drawing, but feel free to pause it and review as you need to. Alright, flipping back over to her card, and we can keep checking out her skill, which is titled Augmented Strike, Snipe, as I mentioned earlier, and at level 10 skill and 56 charge speed, it will deal 370% damage to the target, with minor damage being dealt to nearby enemies. It will then provide a plus 38% crit chance for 4 turns to the caster and nearby allies, and it will also apply a minus 28% charge generation ailment to the target and nearby enemies for 4 turns. So before we dive into the damage component, I do need to explain the phrase minor damage. So minor damage is just half the listed percentage on their special skill. So in the case of Jewell, she does 370% damage to the target and then half that amount to the nearby enemies. So the nearby enemies cop a 185% snipe each. So that's how it works. Because of how the damage calculation works though, it's not half the damage. It actually ends up being roughly 42% of the damage done to the main enemy. So because of this substantial drop off in damage, I tend to classify minor damage heroes predominantly as snipers, because their damage is majority of their damage is directed at a single target and then massively drops off when it targets nearby enemies. So if you see a hero in my list which is titled splash damage, that's essentially what it is. They've got the damage to the target and then a bit of splash damage onto the nearby enemies. So having a look at that actual damage output, as we always say, damage is quite difficult to consistently and reliably calculate, mainly because of the random factor that goes into it, but there are also a range of variables that feed into the calculation. So what we can easily do instead is we can calculate a hero's attack power, which is something that feeds into the damage calculation, and as a rule of thumb, higher attack power equals higher damage. So in the case of Jewell, her attack power is her attack stat, 710, multiplied by the skill damage, which is 370%. So we can see there that her attack power comes out at 2,627, or 263 when you break it down onto a per tile basis. So that's what APPT means. It is attack power per tile. So that ranks her as equal 5th. It is pretty well the middle of the overall list of yellow snipers. It is on the upper end of them numerically in terms of the ranking. but there is a huge gap between the number 5 and the number 4, 3, 2, and 1 damage dealers. By comparison, there is only a small gap between, Jewell at number 5 and Nutmeg at number 11 or Reaper at number 12. It's a smaller gap than going up to the number 4 rank. So, not a bad damage dealer, but there is, as I said, she is a step behind the better damage dealing options in yellow snipers. The second component of her skill, which is the application of a crit chance buff to herself and nearby allies for 4 turns. Crit chance buffs are actually not very prevalent in the game. There are only 7 5-star heroes that provide a crit chance buff in their skill. Alright, so that's 7 out of all of the possible 5-star heroes. Of those 7, 3 of them only apply it to themselves. So there's only 4 that give a buff to anyone other than themselves. And of those 4, 2 of them are yellow heroes. So there are 4, as I mentioned, 4 crit chance buffing heroes. So you've got Jewell, who is yellow, Min, who is a yellow vanilla hero, Lana, who is a green hero from the water fight or the summer event, and then you've also got Bunraku, who is a red hero from the Neon City portal. There is a notable mention of Zigzag. He does give crit chance, but it's not a buff, it's a stack, so it's comparable, but it also is separate from buffs. But it is also very much worth noting. So the 38% chance that Jewell gives is on the upper end of the spectrum. Min and Bunraku also offer 38%, but then Lana only offers 28%, and Zigzag can give up to 30%. What is different to the other heroes, though, is that Jewell's buff lasts for 4 turns. The other buffing heroes only go for 3 turns. And then, Zigzag is permanent, but as I said, he's comparable, but not comparable. So, yeah. To briefly explain what crit chance actually is and crit damage, what it actually is. So, crit damage is essentially a doubling of the base damage done from a normal attack. So, normal attacks are only slash attacks, minion strikes, and tile damage. Special skills cannot crit. Alright, crit chance does not, it's impossible for special skills to crit. The exception to this is Mortis, whose skill explicitly has a crit chance line on it. Now, Mortis, even though his skill says it can crit, if you put crit weapons on it, so crit chance weapons, it doesn't affect that chance for his special skill to crit. So, yeah, that is one thing I get asked a lot, and one thing a lot of people assume. Special skills cannot crit. So, normal damage, though, can. So, what crit chance is, as I said, it is the doubling of the damage. So, a tile, which would normally do 150 damage, will instead do 300 damage, alright? It is worth noting, though, that crit damage is calculated separate from elemental modifiers. So, when you're fighting a fight and you see those strong and weak color interactions come up on the screen, that's the crit chance is sort of calculated separate from that. So it does get a little bit confusing. So what I mean with this is a neutral tile. So if you shot a red tile against a yellow hero, a yellow tile against a red hero, a neutral tile would normally do, say, 100 damage. When it crits, it does 200 damage, right? That's easy. It's just double the amount. A weak color tile, so a yellow tile against a yellow hero, in this instance, it would do 100 damage, but then you've got to factor in the weak element, so that's only 50 damage that it does. But if a weak tile crits, it'll end up being 150 damage, because you've got the 50 damage from the base amount and then 100 damage from the crit. So it's a 300% improvement on the standard weak tile. A strong color tile, by comparison, normally it would do 200 damage, because strong damage doubles it, all right? Weak damage halves it, strong damage doubles. But when you crit, it's only the base 100 that gets added on. So it's 200 plus 100 for crit, so it makes it 300. So it is only a 50% improvement over the regular strong damage. So it gets really confusing, all right? Very, very confusing, but the basics of it is that crit tiles are always good, all right? So a strong crit tile will be 3 times a neutral damage, and a weak crit tile will be 1.5 times a neutral tile. All right, So even though you get a better improvement in terms of the damage output on a weak and a neutral tile, strong tiles that crit is still the highest tile damage you can get, right? So confusing, I know, like the elemental interactions is quite weird, but the basics of it is that crit damage is still a big improvement in the damage output compared to just an uncrit tile, all right? So try to simplify it. I've explained it for those that are actually really interested in it, but if you're not interested in it, just take away that crit damage is a massive improvement to tile or normal damage. The final part of Jewell's skill is the application of a charge generation ailment on the target and nearby enemies for 4 turns. So again, it's 4 turns. It's more than the standard that you get from most heroes, which is 2 or 3 turns. The charge debuff, it is a form of charge control, so it is very useful on a battlefield. It's probably less immediately useful than something like a charge cut or a mindless attack ailment. However, it is still highly effective on a battlefield because you can move bulk tiles around. So you can set off big cascades, and it goes a long way to reducing the charge generation from those cascades. So generally speaking, other charge control methods are going to be more useful, but charge degeneration, I guess, is still charge control, so it is a highly, highly effective ailment to use on the battlefield. So overall, I would say that Jewell is not a bad hero, all right? She flies under the radar a little bit, and I value her a little bit higher than I think most people do because I put a fairly high emphasis on crit and on charge generation. Now, I haven't leveled Jewell, as you've obviously noted, and that's mainly because I've just got so many yellow heroes. Like, my yellow hero backlog is insane, but she is definitely worth a look in, right? The crit buff, as I said, it's probably her best feature, and it makes a massive improvement in both raiding and war machine situations, particularly because it can stack with crit weapon perks, right? So if you put Jewell with a crit gun or her nearby allies with a crit gun, it's now the 38% plus the 25% or whatever it is on those weapons. So while the buff is active, you've actually got like a 60-something% chance that you only get crit tiles. That's a huge, like a massive improvement in your damage output. So very, very much worth considering and giving a look in. So yeah, not a fantastic hero. She's not going to stand out across better than just about anyone else, but she's also definitely not a trash hero either. So for Jewell's grading, I am going to give her a B+ for war and raid attacks. This is on the back of the crit chance and also the charge degeneration buff. I think both of those, they're very effective skills and they do fly under the radar a fair bit. She's not going to be in your team for damage output, all right? Most of her function is going to be as a support hero. For war machines, I am still going to give her a B grade, and that's because of the crit chance buff, because the vast majority of your tile damage on war machines comes from tiles, all right? So if you can crit the tiles that are hitting outside the weak lane, it's going to be a big improvement in your damage output. For events, that comes down, I'm going to give her a C+ for eventing. Crit chance is nice, the minor damage, it's not ideal, so yeah, C+ there. For raid and war defenses, I'm going to give her a C grade. She's probably not well suited to a defense team as the opportunities for crit are very much reduced. She is an okay option if needed. Probably best suited to the flank position though. Maybe serviceable at wing, definitely not tank material. In the tournament setups, so in Bloody Battles, I'm going to give her a B grade for attack and a C grade for defense. So slight reduction there. There's not really anything towards a Bloody Battle rule set. Buff boosters, I'm going to give her a B+ for attack and a C+ for defense because she does generate a buff for each of her nearby allies. And then charged attack, I'm going to give her a B+ for attack and a C grade for defense. So she does have that charged degeneration element, which does go a ways towards countering the rule set, but again, she's not getting the most improvement in that tournament setting. So overall, that grading comes out as being a B grade for attack and a C grade for her defense. And overall, that's her grading. So that concludes the content that I have for this review of Jewell. As always, these are just my personal opinions and takes on these heroes. I love hearing your thoughts and feedback on them. So please do jump down to the comment section of the video, leave me a note. I love reading them. I try to respond to as many of you as I possibly can. If you did enjoy the video and found it to be useful, like the video, subscribe to my channel. There's plenty more stuff like this around, but most importantly, share the video around, because if you found it to be useful for yourself, chances are it's also going to be useful for the people that you play with as well. Thank you once again for tuning in and joining me. I do hope that I will see you again soon, but until then, good luck, stay safe, and happy gaming. Cheers, bye!